Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time again.
It's time for the J. Craig 5, maybe 10-minute movie review.
Welcome back, everybody. I am Jay of the J. Craig Podcast. If you haven't done so already, click on that button on the bottom right of your screen, subscribe button, and get access to all our movie reviews as well as the J. Craig Podcast episodes we release twice a month. Today, we're going to talk about Eli Roth's remake of the 1974 movie Death Wish. This new one stars Bruce Willis, Vincent D'Onofrio, Elizabeth Shue, Hank from Breaking Bad, and written by Joe Carnahan, which I was pleasantly surprised by. Now, before I talk about the remake, I want to touch on the original for a couple moments here. I'm not sure how many of you out there have seen the original 1974 Death Wish. I just watched it this past weekend in preparation for this release. It's got three things going for it. Charles Bronson, made in the mid-70s, and Herbie Hancock music throughout. Other than that, it's a very simple story. And it's a right-sided story, I think. It talks about liberal pansy gun laws. It talks about putting a gun in your hand to make you stronger and safer. And in the end, it's if you're a white guy with a gun killing bad guys, well, we can overlook that. Now, in terms of remakes, I'm generally opposed. However, I feel this movie is a prime example of a movie that can be remade and modernized. Now, walking into Eli Roth's Death Wish, I really wasn't expecting much. I wasn't expecting to like it. I was expecting another Bruce Willis movie. And I will say, for the record, I was pleasantly surprised by Death Wish. This movie is far better than it ever should have been. And I think a lot of that's attributed to the Joe Carnahan script, which was lively, fun, it was fastly paced, very entertaining, and it had a good message. Now, this is a very left-sided minded story as opposed to the right side from the original. It talks about the accessibility of guns and how easy it is to get guns and the violence in our country and the epidemic that we're facing. And off the heels of yet another school shooting, I thought, wow, what a bad timing for a movie like this to come out. But I think they're making a point. They're just not digging into it. And the point is violence begets more violence. So I think they laid off of driving that point home because I think a lot of movies are doing that. And sometimes it loses the entertainment value as opposed to just trying to prove that point. So they backed off of that message a little bit. And I think that's okay. Now, Bruce Willis is no Charles Bronson. Now, Charles Bronson's never going to be accused of winning an award for acting. However, he just had that 60s and 70s toughness, that cool, tough as nails kind of guy who could eat cardboard, right? He's one of the keepers of the gate. While Bruce Willis is also very cool, I typically like Bruce Willis. However, he's my least favorite part of this movie. He doesn't feel like he fits. In the action sequences, he's great, but when in other instances, he just feels wooden. He's not. He just doesn't feel like he's awake through a lot of this movie. So it didn't ruin the movie for me, but he was definitely my least favorite part about it. Now, as I said, the story has a purpose. It doesn't dig its teeth into it enough, but I like the family dynamic far more than I did the original. In the original, we meet the family very briefly, and then tragedy befalls them. And by the way, the home invasion from the original is far more brutal and visceral than the remake. However, those of you who are Eli Roth fans, don't you worry. You will get your just desserts. You will get your violence. You will get your gore. It'll happen. Just be patient. I promise you it's there. So those of you who are squeamish, just be prepared to look away a couple times. Okay, now I felt more for the family in this remake because we spent more time with them and we understood them. And so when tragedy finally happened to them, I felt more, and it was very emotional in certain parts of the movie where I put myself in those shoes and what it would feel like to have that happen to you. And as a family man, can I protect my family? What would happen if that happened to me? So that's what connected me to this movie, and that's what I enjoyed about it, even though it's terrifying, right? Because it affected me in a way which movies should. Now, the one thing that bothered me outside of Bruce Willis was the fact that in the original, Charles Bronson he lured and baited the villains or the criminals into recesses of dark alleys and areas where people wouldn't see him and people wouldn't get hurt. In the remake, I don't know if it's a point they're trying to make about violence, but man, Bruce Willis is just shooting up everywhere. So it doesn't matter where he is, he's shooting his gun, and it doesn't matter if anybody gets hurt. And maybe that's the point. They're trying to say that, putting guns in the hands of average everyday people who have no training is going to result in a lot more bad than good. right? So there is a purpose there. There is a point. They lay off a bit on it, but I was very entertained by the movie. I don't think it glamorizes violence. It's more about violence begets more violence and the dangers of that. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised, and I hope you go see it, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thank you for listening to this edition of the 5-Minute Movie Review. I am Jay of the Jay Craig Podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your bottom right of your screen, and hit the like button and help us grow. See you next time.